The diner's neon sign buzzed like a heartbeat in the quiet of 3 a.m., its pink glow flickering over the cracked asphalt of Willow Creek's only all-night eatery. Inside, Amara Jones, 29, moved with the grace of someone who'd spent a decade pouring coffee and dreams into this place. Her dark skin glistened with a sheen of sweat, her braids tucked under a faded red bandana, her eyes carrying the weight of a life stitched together with grit and love. The late shift was her domain, a time when the world slowed, and the diner became a confessional for weary souls. The bell above the door chimed, sharp and out of place in the stillness. Amara looked up, expecting a trucker or a local insomniac. Instead, a man stepped in, his presence like a sudden storm. His tailored black suit screamed wealth, his silver cufflinks catching the dim light like stars. He was older, maybe mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that held a quiet intensity. He scanned the diner, then settled into a corner booth, his gaze fixed on the rain-slick street outside. "Evening," Amara said, her voice warm but cautious as she approached with her notepad. "What'll it be?" "Coffee." "Black," he replied, his voice low, almost a murmur, like he was speaking to a memory. He didn't look at her, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. She nodded, turning to fetch his order. As she set the steaming mug down, his hand brushed his coat, and something fell, a small, creased photograph, landing face up on the linoleum. Amara's heart stopped. The woman in the photo was her mother, Lena Jones, her smile radiant under a summer sky, her eyes sparkling with a joy Amara hadn't seen since she was a child. Lena, who'd raised Amara alone, who died 4 years ago, leaving behind a legacy of kindness and a box of secrets Amara had never dared open. She snatched the photo before he could, her voice trembling. "Where did you get this?" The man's eye snapped to hers, blue and piercing, a flicker of something, guilt, maybe, crossing his face. "Give it back," he said, his tone sharp but unsteady. "This is my mother," Amara said, her voice rising, clutching the photo like a lifeline. "Why do you have her picture?" He stood, his movements swift, almost panicked. "You're mistaken," he said, tossing a $100 bill on the table. "Keep the change." He was halfway to the door before Amara could blink. "No, wait." She bolted after him, the photo still in her hand, her heart pounding. "You can't just leave." "How do you know her?" He paused at the door, rain dripping from his coat, his back to her. For a moment, she thought he'd turn, that he'd explain. Instead, he said, "Let it go, kid," and stepped into the night. A black SUV roared to life outside, its taillights vanishing into the storm. Amara stood in the doorway, rain soaking her apron, the photo trembling in her fingers. Her mother's face stared back, a ghost with answers she'd never shared. Lena had been a nurse, a woman who'd bandage knees and hearts with equal care, who'd sing gospel in the kitchen and teach Amara to love fiercely. She'd never mentioned a man like this, not a billionaire, not anyone. Yet here was proof, tucked in a stranger's wallet. Sleep was a stranger that night. Amara sat in her cramped apartment, her mother's memory box open on the table, a wooden keepsake filled with letters, a locket, and a recipe for sweet potato pie that could break your heart. She scoured the internet, her fingers flying over her laptop. Billionaires, CEOs, philanthropists, hundreds of faces, none his. Until, at 4 a.m., she found him, Marcus Everett, 54, head of Everett Enterprises, a global empire of tech and real estate. His photo matched the men in the diner, his eyes cold in every article, his life a fortress of wealth and solitude. No family, no past loves, no trace of Lena Jones. Amara's chest tightened. He'd carried her mother's photo like a sacred relic, then dismissed her like she was nothing. She wasn't letting this go. She'd find him, and he'd tell her the truth, even if it meant storming his world. By dawn, Amara was on a train to the city, her mother's locket around her neck, its weight grounding her. Everett Enterprises headquarters was a glass cathedral, towering over the skyline like a monument to power. She marched to the reception desk, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "I need to see Marcus Everett." "It's about Lena Jones." The receptionist, all sleek hair and practiced indifference, raised an eyebrow. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Amara said, her eyes blazing. "But he'll want to hear this." After a tense exchange and a phone call, a security guard escorted her to the penthouse floor. The elevator hummed, each floor ticking by like a countdown. When the doors opened, Marcus stood there, his suit impeccable, his expression a mask of control. But his eyes, those same blue eyes, betrayed a flicker of recognition. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. He gestured to his office, a sterile expanse of glass and leather. Amara didn't sit. She slapped the photo on his desk. "Start talking. Why do you have my mother's picture?" Marcus stared at the photo, his fingers twitching as if it might burn him. When he spoke, his voice was raw, like a wound torn open. "Lena was my everything." Amara's breath caught. "What?" He sank into his chair, his polished facade crumbling. 30 years ago, I was a nobody. A kid running from a family that wanted to mold me into something I wasn't. I ended up in Willow Creek, broke and angry. Your mother, she was a waitress then, at that diner. She didn't care about my name or my past. She saw the man I wanted to be. We fell in love, Amara. The kind of love that changes you forever. Her knees buckled, but she stayed standing, gripping the desk. Then why did you leave her? His eyes glistened, pain etching deep lines into his face. My father found me. He threatened to destroy her, her job, her family, her life. I was 24, terrified, and I believed him. I left, thinking I'd come back when I was strong enough to protect her. But when I did, she was gone. No trace. I searched for years. Amara's throat burned with unshed tears. She was raising me. Alone. While you built this. She gestured at the office, her voice trembling with rage. Marcus's voice broke. I didn't know about you. If I had. You'd what? She snapped. Be a father. She never told me about you. Not once. He reached into a drawer, pulling out a small, yellowed envelope. She sent this, years ago. I found it after she passed. It was meant for you. Amara's hands shook as she opened it. Her mother's handwriting, steady and warm, stared back at her. My sweet Amara. If you're reading this, you've met Marcus. I loved him once, with all my heart. But he chose a path I couldn't follow. I don't blame him, I never did. I raised you to be strong, to be kind, to carry love even when it hurts. If he's here, listen to his story. Decide for yourself what he deserves. You are my light, always. Love, Mama. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks, each word a piece of her mother's soul. She never stopped loving, Amara whispered. Even after you broke her heart. Marcus's voice was barely audible. I've carried her with me every day. That photo, it's my punishment, my reminder. Amara looked at him, really looked. Not the billionaire, not the man who'd abandoned her mother, but the one who'd loved Lena, who'd lost her, who was drowning in a sea of regret. Something stirred in her, not forgiveness, but a spark of compassion, the kind her mother had taught her. She stood, slipping the letter into her pocket. I don't know if I can trust you, she said. But I'm not ready to walk away. Marcus nodded, his eyes soft with something like hope. I'll be here, Amara. However long it takes. Over the next months, Marcus didn't push. He came to the diner, not in a suit but in a sweater, sitting at the counter, sipping coffee, listening to Amara's stories about Lena, her love for sunflowers, her habit of leaving notes in Amara's lunchbox, her way of making strangers feel like family. He didn't ask for forgiveness, he earned it, one small act at a time. He fixed the diner's leaking roof, funded a community garden in Lena's name, and sat with the regulars, his wealth fading into the background. One rainy evening, Amara handed him a plate of sweet potato pie, her mother's recipe. She'd want you to try this, she said, her voice soft. Marcus took a bite, his eyes closing as tears fell. It's her, he whispered. It's Lena. Amara smiled, her heart heavy but warm. It's home. As she locked up the diner, the locket gleamed under the neon sign. Lena's kindness had carried them this far, and now, it was guiding them forward. Not to erase the past, but to weave a new future, one built on love, forgiveness, and the quiet strength of a woman who'd never stopped believing in second chances.